Every week, former WWE creative writer Kevin Eck will run down his burning thoughts from Raw, SmackDown Live, and the rest of the pro wrestling world. Raw thoughts. Am I the only one who found Bobby Lashley's sit-down interview to be bizarre? Last week I wrote that we really needed to hear something from Lashley, whether it's a promo, video package or sit-down interview. We actually got a video package and a sit-down interview. The package, which chronicled Lashley's upbringing, military service, amateur athletic career, his first WWE run and MMA career, was fine. The sit-down interview, however, was different, to say the least. A smiling Lashley talked mostly about his older sisters beating him up when they were kids. If the goal of the interview was to get Lashley over as a babyface, it failed miserably, as he came off as the antithesis of a cool guy fans would want to cheer for. In fact, the interview made Lashley look like such a dork that I have to believe it was done intentionally and that WWE is turning him heel. More WWE Backlash grades. What's next? Called BS when Kurt Angle said that the reason WWE performers work 52 weeks a year is because they do it for the fans? Yeah, it's definitely not because it puts money in the McMahon's pockets or anything. WWE's travel schedule as of late has been insane. For both the physical and mental well-being of the talent, I'd love to see WWE have an off-season, even if it's just a brief one. Thought Jinder Mahal's interference took away from Finn Balor's win in the Money in the Bank qualifying triple threat match? The story told was that Roman Reigns would have won the match had Mahal not gotten involved. That's a pretty crappy way for a babyface to win. It really only makes sense if WWE is planning to turn Balor heel. Would like to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn split up and resume their feud. Owens and Zayn fighting and then getting back on the same page is getting a little tiresome, but nowhere near as tiresome as the never-ending Bayley-Sasha Banks saga. As entertaining as I think more Sami and Kevin show interview segments would be, I wouldn't mind seeing these two go their separate ways if it leads to Owens turning babyface. We've seen Owens versus Zayn plenty of times, but it would be fresh with the babyface heel roles reversed. Plus, I have long believed that Owens has the potential to be the No. 1 babyface in WWE. Doesn't understand who the fans are supposed to like in the Bayley-Sasha Banks storyline? When Bayley saved Banks from an attack by the Riot Squad, Michael Cole said, "Finally Bayley does the right thing." That was odd, because I don't recall Bayley doing anything wrong. Banks is the one who has acted heelish toward her friend. Bayley has been justified in giving her the cold shoulder. The storytelling in this angle has been poor and detrimental to both Bayley and Banks. WWE either needs to finally pull the trigger on the Banks heel turn or just have them get back on the same page. It's gotten so bad that I just want to turn the channel when Bayley and Banks appear on the show. Felt vindicated when Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler squashed Heath Slater and Rhino. The last time McIntyre and Slater were in the ring together 4 years ago, Slater was the leader of 3 Megabytes, and McIntyre and Jinder Mahal were his sidekicks. Let that sink in for a moment. McIntyre and Mahal were supporting players in a comedic act in which Slater was the star. I'd be lying if I said I thought at the time that Mahal was a future WWE champion, but I firmly believed that McIntyre would be an uppercard guy if ever given the opportunity. Being in 3 Megabytes and playing second fiddle to Slater was such an obvious waste of McIntyre's talent. During my time on the WWE creative team, 2011 to 2014, I pitched numerous ideas that would have elevated McIntyre, but they all fell on deaf ears. When WWE made roster cuts in June 2014, McIntyre and Mahal were on the cut list, Slater was not. Nothing against Slater, who is good in his glorified enhancement role, but I knew the powers that be were way off base in their assessment of Slater, McIntyre and Mahal. Given the current state of McIntyre and Slater's careers, it proves that what Randy "Macho Man" Savage said years ago holds true. Was disappointed that Jinder Mahal got his win back against Chad Gable. I was hoping Gable's upset victory over Mahal 2 weeks ago was the beginning of a push for him. With Mahal starting a program with Roman Reigns, however, I understand why Mahal had to win the rematch, but hopefully there are plans for the talented Gable. Was wondering why WWE would waste time having the likes of Breezango and the Ascension cutting promos about being in the Money in the Bank ladder match. That would be like having a member of my hometown Baltimore Orioles cutting a promo about being in the playoffs this season. Speaking of the Orioles, I hear they've already selected the music for their 2018 highlights video. SmackDown Live thoughts: am I the only one who was baffled by the decision to have Rusev score a clean win over Daniel Bryan? Look, I'm all for giving Rusev a push, but it's way too soon in Bryan's comeback for him to lose to anyone, much less a guy who rarely wins. I get that Bryan's an underdog and therefore needs obstacles to overcome, but surely there are ways to do that without marginalizing him. As for Rusev, hopefully this is the start of something meaningful for him. Actually felt sorry for Paige having to say that Backlash was a smashing success. The crowd's lack of response when she delivered that line spoke volumes. The powers that be in WWE have to know that Backlash sucked, so why kill the credibility of the babyface general manager? More PPV events that were worse than Backlash. Loved the finish to the Miz Jeff Hardy Money in the Bank qualifying match. Miz rolling Hardy over into a pinning combination after Hardy hit a Swanton bomb was not something I saw coming. It was nice to see Miz get a clean win over a guy of Hardy's stature, and the loss doesn't hurt Hardy. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Miz wins the MITB ladder match and goes on to successfully cash in the contract to become WWE champion again. Miz as WWE champion versus Daniel Bryan is a WrestleMania main event waiting to happen. Wondered why the Miz wasn't disqualified for straddling Jeff Hardy on the barricade? Doesn't that constitute a low blow? Perhaps SmackDown Live referees have become desensitized to low blows after watching AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura repeatedly hitting each other in the Jimmy